I did want to talk about mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to know, so I believe you got some experience in helping people, or you were in a position where you were dealing with people that had poor mental health and you were like trying to help them out. Is that correct?
Sort of. Like, again, we don't have enough of a mental health staff protection healthcare service around there. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to get like counselling appointments at universities or anything like.
I've had friends who have tried, and it's like
really different.
months or at least.
Yeah. Which is rough. So my PhD is looking at the provision of mental health care and how that interacts with people's ability to like work and labour outcomes. That stemmed from me because I lost a very, very close sort of family friend to suicide, and that completely changed my life. Like, it destroyed me. I didn't have an understanding really of why. It was so abrupt. Like, there was no inkling that person wasn't really like okay, and then the guilt of living with that situation that you didn't do enough in the moment. It's something that I will take with me for the rest of their life. You know, you care so much about someone, you have that love, you have that bond with them. The fact that you weren't able to see or to know what was going on is fucking crushing. You know, like that hurts. So after reflecting and sort of learning about myself and making sure that I got that help that I needed to push through that and become who I am now, you want everyone to just be more aware of what's going on with them, so that they can communicate. And we talk about all that right back at the beginning of this conversation. How do you communicate? How do you create a safe environment to communicate? Because we all are just expected to be okay all the time, most of the time. That's what people want. You know, people obviously are really comfortable when someone's upset. It's uncomfortable. But it's usually because we always want to fix it, or we don't understand it properly. Like I said, again, with that 8-minute conversation, if you're just able to sit down with a friend and let them vent for 8 minutes, it will massively help. Like, it could be an 8-minute conversation, it could be a 2-hour conversation. There's things that I've sort of looked then at the past. Again, there is like mental health first aid courses. There are like different forms of pastoral support you can offer them. But most of the thing that you do when it comes to mental health, if you're not a trained professional, shouldn't be to therapize people. It's to signpost. It's to listen. It's to actively listen. It's to be there for someone and let them have that space to talk, and then signpost them appropriately where it is. And really important that you don't take that on as well, because obviously it's really heavy because you do care about these people. And those are really tough conversations to have. You can't do it with everybody, which is why we all need to get involved. Because again, if you can do that for a couple of friends, and they can do that for a couple of friends, and they can do that for a couple of friends, we're reaching everyone. Yeah. And whilst we do want everyone to be okay, we need to start making it okay to not be okay, and to be able to express the feelings. Like, huge part of my own personal growth is like up to the age of 18 or whatever, 19, I just suppressed feelings. I just didn't want to feel anything, didn't know how to process it. I felt I had an expectation to be mature, or to be whatever I had to be in that environment where people just knew that I was okay, right? I had to be okay, because if I was okay, then other people would sort of gain strength from that and doing all this stuff. But like, it killed me, and it absolutely destroyed my own mental health, to the point where you just almost disassociate from everything, right? You don't want to be in the feeling. You don't learn how to process it. And then when my friend, did pass away, like, that just sends your world into turmoil, because then how are you supposed to process the grief? You've got to process that emotion, and a big part of that is just allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to feel what's going on. And if you can start to implement those conversations around where you might recognize when I'm at training and we're coming in and someone's saying, "Oh, how you doing?" and stuff like that. I don't always say great. Sometimes if I'm not good, I'll say, "Oh, a bit stressed out," whatever, or not feeling on it, and things like that. Because if you start to express that you're able to do that, but things are okay to do that, then more people do it again. Do you know what I mean? And be there for each other. But basically, a huge lesson that I took out of that is this form of honesty and truth with one another, right? Because if you don't know when that last conversation is going to be with someone, you leave a lot unsaid. That doesn't mean you need to be overly deep, overly anxious about when that last conversation is going to be with someone, but just don't leave something unsaid. It gives you an appreciation for other people, which if you then can express like a gratitude, it makes them feel good, makes you feel good. If you love someone, tell them you love them. If someone's your friend, tell them they're your friend. Tell them they're doing good, or that you respect the hell out of something else. Like, put that shit on the table, let it come out, let it talk about it, like, connect over it. And be there sort of people. That mental health role that I said before is just literally talking and signposting, listening, signposting, showing that you're there.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
It's all right. Thank you, though.
I'm not sure how I would deal with a situation like that. But if you do notice that maybe someone close to you is maybe a bit quiet or doesn't really want to do things, like isn't it's just maybe like some kind of like lazy persona, or like they don't really want to engage with much conversation. Maybe you notice them being like destructive. Like what would be the best way to kind of address that or try help them? Because you don't want to be like patronizing.
Exactly.
You don't want to, and you also want to actually help them. You don't want to just be annoying. Like if you're constantly asking, "Oh, you're right," and it's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine," kind of thing. Like what's the best way to kind of get them to open up? Because we always say how it's important to open up, but sometimes like it's just you can't unlock the person to them to open up.
Yeah.
Like what would be ways you can do that? What would be a good way of going about that?
I mean, again, this is where I was saying about don't try to be a therapist if you're not. Whatever my experience on this is my experience. Okay, so this is my opinion on those sort of things. What I found has works best is like what I said before, is you set the tone. So you don't constantly ask someone if they're okay if you think that they're not okay. If you've asked, that's great. Allow them the space. There is a big thing which is, it's just turn up. Like it's just being around that person as much as you can be. If you feel that there is something that they need and they're expressing that they want you to be around, then be there. You know what I mean? Like if you can just hang out with your friends, or if you've noticed they're not feeling great or they're not engaging with you, you're struggling to get out to hang out with them, just like, can I come around for a bit? You know, I've offered that sort of different solution of not trying to make them decide, like try and take a lot of the bigger, more stressful environments out of it, so it feels like a safer environment. Say, let's go for a walk, or I'm going to go for a walk if you want to come. Those sort of things, like offer those different activities which give you basically sunlight, vitamin D, some fresh air. Form of exercise is always usually good, helps people get talking and stuff like that. But then, as I said, like, be more expressive about yourself. You know, if you go on that walk and they're sort of struggling, if you come out there and be like, been having like a couple of rough days, you know, I'm feeling a bit sort of lower, I'm relating to this sort of kind of thing, this is what I'm going through. If you just sort of keep expressing, not like dominating, not putting heavy things on them, but just showing that the safe space with you to talk about that is there, then they will probably start talking about it themselves. But that takes time. That's why I say if you set all of your friendships up and your relationships up, that from you're able to express your feelings, not in a dominating way, not making the conversation weird. Like if we're having a laugh, I'm not going to suddenly, oh guys, I feel really depressed today, you know, when everyone's having a joke and stuff like that. It might be in different environments where we've calmed down or the conversation has lulled a bit and be like, proper stress this week. You can be like, oh Joe, what are you stressed about? Oh, well, I've got this work going on, not really handling it well. And you're like, oh right, yeah. And you'll be like, you know, if you just offer that open space to talk, people will do it. But the big thing again is what you said there, don't be pressuring conversations out of people. That's really tough. If you do recognize it, again, signposting might be, if you're really, really, really worried about someone, there are services that you can then go and speak to yourself to try and get that help and support. But yeah, open dialogue, listen, and do something, suggest activities that will be in safe environments for people to speak. Don't go and do it usually in big public spaces or when we're sort of in a bustling, stressful environment. Like, make sure you're in a position of calm.
It's really like these conversations should definitely kind of almost so like going back to what you mentioned earlier about how it just by when someone asks if you're okay, actually tell them how you feel, normalizing talking about people's emotion, making it just common conversation to have. Because I know like girls are really good to talk about their emotions, but guys just are like almost backwards in evolution in terms of talking about their emotions. And I'm one of those, like when anyone asks me if I'm alright, I just say I'm sad, mate, I'm all good. Because I don't want to be a burden on anyone else.
Why'd you feel like a burden?
Well, I always just want to be positive, because I don't want anyone to because I feel like I'm pretty good at if I want to talk about something, I will reach out to people and talk about it. Like if someone's asking me how you doing, I'm like, oh, not too great. It depends who that person asking me is, because if it's someone I don't really want to talk about feelings with, I'll just say, yeah, I'm all good, mate.
Why wouldn't you want to talk about those feelings with that person? What is it about that person?
I guess it's me trying to have this persona that I'm like this, like I'm hard or some shit, or like I'm always sound, I'm just cool, you know what I mean? I don't want to be like, oh no, I'm not really feeling great today.
But what does that persona do for you?
Yeah, it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me at all.
But it might do, right? Like back the camera, the mic. If in that moment, right, you attach your mental health to this perception of being all right all the time,
yeah,
right? If that's just how your survival mechanism is, or coping things like that, it is a big step for you then to sort of open it up. But why do you feel that your persona is attached to that? Why is your mental health attached to your ego? Is essentially what you're describing.
I guess it's like this kind of perception that if you're going to be a man, you got to be like kind of emotionless in a sense, or like be like some tough guy. Like you kind of got to, it's almost like you feel like you got a duty to be all right all the time, even though you're not all right.
I mean, that's what I said, talk about earlier. But yeah, when I was younger, I had that exact same feeling. But for me, it came from, there was maybe a vulnerable position for my family where we'd been through a lot had happened. And when I felt like I expressed that I was upset or something was going on for me, I saw that would hurt them.
Yeah.
So I started to learn from a very young age that if I don't want to hurt my family, the people that care about me, then I have to be okay. And we then reinforce this and reinforce this and reinforce this. But at the end of the day, like, they just care about you, and their ways of handling it, of what you're expressing to them, usually comes about they want to fix, because they don't want you to feel that pain, because they have that empathy, that care about for you. And what they actually need to do is just validate. They need to say, Jem, yeah, man, I hear you. That sounds tough.
Yeah.
And say it with you in that moment. Because if someone just does that for, like I said, a couple of minutes, you're going to be all right. You're going to feel all right, because all you just needed is you're battling an internal battle with yourself. You're fighting yourself from all these different angles. Your mental health is obviously suffering from that element of a contrast of like an image and what you actually are. There's a difference. You're trying to outwardly project an image that everything's okay, but on the inside, something is hurting. There's this disconnection between the two.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in that, you just need to be validated. You just need to learn a self-soothing technique, which is just self-validation, which is, I'm okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
If someone around you and there's people that you then care about start to do that as well, then you'll feel more comfortable speaking about it, which is, again, another hard conversation, right? So you sat there with whoever makes you feel that way. Maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's your mum or your dad or your brother, and they start to do that. They start to do that fixing thing. This really tough conversation that our generation start to have is just turn around and say, I really appreciate that you care about me and you want to make this right. But right now, what I just need is for you to, like, say, validate this. Just be in it with me. There isn't a fix, you know? There isn't a, let's do this and I'm going to be better. It's about saying that feeling this emotion or whatever it is in this moment, it's totally normal, totally all right. It's going to pass or whatever. And the support that you can give me isn't to fix it, isn't to make it better, but just to be with me in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that takes that ego thing away. When you say this, to be the man, what does being a man have to do with not feeling the feelings? Because this is a thing that always confuses me, because you're right, like, there are things that you watch, TV, movies, which have like almost like role models, gender role models, but these gender role models are complete constructs. They're just made up. They're not real. They're not based on anything. There's not, like, you can't go back in history and see specific, like, actions are resulting in this now. This is something that's happened in maybe the past couple of 1,000 years or whatever, where we've decided that men are this thing, right, or women are this thing, which is complete bullshit. It's not right. So why does that make you feel good to feel that way? Or why do you keep reinforcing that process yourself? That's that element of reflection that we're not normally in a position to have. Do you know what I mean? We just go through and something's told, and you see that role model on TV, or you witness that role model in your parents or the people around you, and then you start to believe that that's what it is. But if it's hurting you, and if it's like detracting from your life experience, right? If your ability to have fun and to just enjoy the very, very short time that you have in this chaotic world, then why do we keep doing it? You know?
Yeah.
Why do we keep doing it? Because it makes it harder if your persona and your ego is related to your mental health that you're trying to project. Like, if you're having a bad day then, or you're not feeling it, you're probably going to be much less likely to want to do social things or come out into the world and do all these things. You're going to want to like hide away and like nest and things like that. But that's probably not what you need at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, and actually in that moment then, are you worsening? Are you like confounding these effects of mental health on yourself? Are you then like properly making it worse because you don't feel then you can talk to anybody? So now we're in a cage, we're in a catalyst where I have to keep staying inside, not doing social things, not talking about it to people. And then we end up in situations with my friend, right? If he had that role model where he was able to express that and learn that he didn't have to outwardly project, because like I said, I couldn't tell it was coming. There was no indication that that was the stage that he was at, right? Life of the party, bubbly personality, you know, nothing like that. And then it happens and everyone's so shocked because you just don't understand. That is what we talk about in this moment. If we can get to that point where the role models change, that's what we get.